Alright, my gaskets have come in for this, or seals, or whatever you call it. This is the 07 International VT365 that I bought for parts, and we got it running after it's been sitting for, I don't remember how many years. But now what we're going to do is get up in here where the oil cooler lives and the oil filter base. We're going to take all that apart and reseal it, because if you remember from the other video, it's just pouring oil out the front and out the back. So we're going to get that apart and see if we can seal it up. I think what I might do now, I need to know about the coolant, but I think I'll wait on that until after we get this fixed real quick, because I already bought the parts. So regardless if there's a problem with the freeze plug or a blown head gasket or something, whatever reason why the coolant jug is empty, well, it won't matter because I've already spent the money, so might as well make it run. So without further ado, let's get the intake out of here. Well, I only put a gallon of water in it. I guess about a gallon, about a gallon and a half really, I guess. Yeah, about a gallon and a half of water. So that may have been just what it overheated and what it pushed out. Okay, well, that's a little more promising. So let's get the oil leak fixed. There you go. There's the reason why. The housing's broke. Go figure. Cast aluminum. Spinning that great big housing on it. Great big cap would crack. Who would have thought? Okay, so now we gotta go shopping for another one. Maybe you can see that right in there. Maybe not. Doesn't focus so well. Anyways, that piece is still in there. I'll see if I can get it out. I have this engine laying here, and I was gonna come over here and see about the oil filter housing, but it's melted. This thing was in a fire. But anyways, let's go over the other place, see if we can find some parts. How about that? That one ain't leaking. Great. We'll take that off too. If I need these lines, I could probably take these off here. These are the lines that feed each head. Gotta be careful. That thing's kind of moving around pretty easy. Yeah, not too bad. That won't be too difficult at all, I don't think. As long as them will come loose, they sure look like they will. Somebody else needs some parts off this thing, and I forget what all they need. I knew they need the air charge pipe. They need the FICM and the ECM, which aren't here, but I think I know where those are. That's a DT466. This is a mechanical engine here. Alright, well, grab my tools and we're getting to take that with us. I love having my own parts store. As a matter of fact, I probably ought to grab that tensioner, that idler pulley. Oh yeah, she's good. Oh, it's a Torx bit. I didn't bring Torx bits. Dang it. Alright, well, I'll see if the one I brought is the same size as that. We'll see. There you go. That's a good sign when you take it loose and then all the oil falls out, or leaks out. Looks like I got a good one. There we go. Wiring harness in the way. Gotta put the camera down to get it out of there. I noticed in mine this little check valve here was broken, so we're gonna try and take it out of this housing right there. See if I can get that out. All right, so this is actually supposed to be kind of like this. and then this should be sitting on top of it with this collar. But when I took it apart, because that was cracked, it bumped it and cracked it and broke it. So took this one out of the other one. This is a seal that was at the base. Very cruddy. It's like cast aluminum down here. I got it cleaned up the best I can, but it still isn't great. I mean, it's still kind of rough. I think it'd be better to pull that thing out to do it, but I'm not gonna do it for this one. It's just preference at this point. So we're gonna put the little lube on the O-ring and put it down in there. All right, so it was corroded, kind of dirty, so I just took it to the wire wheel, just cleaned it up a little bit. Next time I do this, I'll take the cap off and then pull the oil filter out. Might make it a little bit easier and less of a mess. So let's put it on. I don't want anybody else having the same problem, because this is a steel bolt going into an aluminum housing. No wonder it broke. I imagine it was fatigue from the previous guy. That's what I'm guessing. And I'll just go ahead and put these in, just a light, you know, smooth, a light, that's what I'm looking for, a light covering so it doesn't seize up. Alright, we'll do it. Then I'll torque all these down. Problem with never sees, if it's open it starts to dry out. Thin it back down. Otherwise you get thick. I don't want that. Alright, I'll get the rest of these in. Alright, I've got it all back together. Got the oil filter in, and about ready to start it up and check for leaks. So fingers crossed that that one's not cracked. Nothing dripping so far. Look. Good. I think I'll go ahead and put the intake back together, and we'll see if we can get that fully back on. Alright, so I don't know if this happened beforehand, happened after, you know, if this was a cause of the effect. It feels like the inner bearing is locked up, and when I screw that bolt into the spot it's supposed to be, as soon as it gets tight, it won't turn anymore. So it's very possible either that was the problem, and I'm not sure what direction the belt turns in, whether it would, you know, if that bearing locked up, if it would pull that, you know, unthread it, or if it goes the other way, I don't know. But we're gonna go over to that parts engine because I didn't have the right Torx bit, and we're gonna get a bearing and see if there isn't possibly a spacer in here or something. Maybe why it's tightening up on this bearing here. I don't know. I just have to think that bearing's no good, because it will not turn right there. Alright, let's get that one off. See if she'll come loose. At least I was able to find out which way the threads go. Oh no. I was afraid of that. Just can't get it in there far enough. Oh, she came loose. Yes. Yes. Victory. I'm using a headlamp that buddy Omar from Fleet Trucks is. Fleet Trucks for sale, I think. And look, there's no spacer. So that bearing's just locked up. So, okay, well, let's go home and put it on. Alright, We're back on. Let's see if it's a local belt. Alright, I guess we'll let it run for a while. Alright, it's the next day. So yesterday I ran this truck for just about an hour, and I was doing that because I wanted to see if it would overheat, or if we would mix coolant in with the oil, because when it's overheated, there's a good possibility in these engines to blow a head gasket. If it blows a head gasket, what can happen is combustion from the cylinder can get pushed into the cooling system. When it does, it will create pressure in here and let combustion gases build in the cooling system. So when I shut it off yesterday, or when I was running it yesterday, I had the lid off of here, and you can see I was looking down inside. I was looking for any bubbles. So if we're introducing combustion gases in the cooling system, this is where it would escape. So I was watching for that. We didn't have any. When I shut it off yesterday, I came back about a half hour later, and we were just about the max line. And now we're just about a ½ inch lower. So that's not so bad. Now what we want to do is make sure there's no pressure in the cooling system, because if there was, that would be an indicator of a head gasket or a problem internally pushing combustion gases in the cooling system. Now there's nothing. It's dry. It's not dry. There's no pressure is what I mean. I'm thinking about all the things I want to check, like I want to make sure there's no leaks and no puddles underneath it and all that kind of stuff. So if you saw I was running it, let it get up to operating temperature. And also what I was trying to do is at operating temperature, see if it would, create and raise RPMs normally, being that the high pressure system works. What I found was as it got warmer and the engine oil would get thinner, when you shut it off and go to restart it, it had an extended crank. So that leads me to believe there's either O-rings on the injectors, because this is a high pressure oil system. Like I said before, it uses engine oil pressure delivered to which is nominal standard oil pressure, delivers it to an oil pump way down in there. I don't know if you can see it. And then that oil pump creates higher pressure. That higher pressure runs into each head through oil galleys on the tops, and it is dispersed to all the injectors. So every one of those connections has an O-ring, some type of seal, O-ring or a seal. So if you get a leak at any of them points, what can happen is it bleeds off. You don't get the full amount of pressure that is supposed to be delivered to the injectors because it leaks off, right? So think of a garden hose, and you want really good pressure, but there's pinholes all through the garden hose. What you get at the end is reduced. Same principle. So when something like this, as it gets warm, if it has an extended crank, when the oil is thinner, that leads me to believe we've got some bypass or possibly a weak high pressure oil pump. Usually, if you have something with extended crank, when it's warm, or a no-start warm, a no-start would be a huge leak. Extended crank would be a leak, or like I said, you could have an IPR not working right. You can have a ICP not working right. IPR, injection pressure regulator. ICP, injection control pressure. And then it's called an HPOP. It's a high pressure oil, whatever it's called, oil pump. And any of those could fail. So what we want to do is today, now that it's cold, it's only 50 some degrees today, and yesterday it was pushing 70. So we want to see how she's going to start this morning. Cycle. I always like to let the cluster cycle, wait to start light come out, come off, turn off, whatever. Just kind of fumbling and bumbling today. There she goes. Now she's off. Clutch in. Not too bad. No smoke. Just a little bit of smoke there. So, good oil pressure. See how she is as far as responding to RPMs. You can hear, I don't know if it'll pick it up on the camera, but when it was coming down, it had just a little bit of a lazy injector. Of course, the motor's cold. But this would be in a V8 diesel. It's not like a DT466 where we want to stay under 2. I mean, these things are typically in the 25, in the mid 2s anyways in RPMs. Okay, so now we got an engine light. So I'm going to go get my scanner and turn that on. I'm going to be guessing that's we got a problem in the high pressure oil system. Let's see what it is. Okay, so we're scanning the engine and the brakes because it has a engine brake pressure, which is probably a switch that's bad because we have fluid and it's a hydro boost system of sorts. And in the middle well, as long as it took me to go in and get the scanner, come back out, the engine light had turned off. And I imagine if it's a high pressure oil, it had stabilized. Let's see. Low side too high open, low side too high open, power supply, front right sensor on the brakes. Just one page, that's all there is that right? One active. Nothing. Brakes. Faults. Front right sensor. Power supply to the power unit. So I wonder if we were missing one of the wires that got cut for the ABS, because I've never heard the electric pump run, which should be running when the key's on and you hit the pedal. Okay, well, what we're going to do is look at engine data. And we want to look at the fuel system, look at ICP or IPR. Let's see if we can get ICP desired and engine oil pressure, engine control pressure. So this is desired, and this is what it actually is. So let's see what we got, see how close we are. All right, so it's desiring a little bit less than we have. It's running really smooth. IPR is 21%, 20%. Let's see where we go now. We'll hold it around 2,000. I like to do this test when it's cold, so I have something to gauge it by, what its abilities are, and then let it idle and warm up and compare it, and then see what we got. Because if it is a hydraulic leak, you'll see what's desired and what's actual. You'll see it really fall off with thinner oil. I'm going to let this run for a while and warm up. Here you can see that it's a 230 horsepower programming on the engine, and it's rated up to 2,600 RPM. So I'm about 23, 22 and a half right now. So I'm just gonna keep going, let it warm up. Just gonna find the engine temperature here. Engine oil pressure almost 70 pounds. It drops down to about 22 on the gauge here, but it's about 35 on the scanner. So next page, 55 degrees, that's close. Battery voltage 13, a little low on voltage. We'll have to make sure that's okay. Let's see. Engine coolant, oops, wrong one. Boost pressure, engine oil pressure. Oil starting to warm up, it's coming down. Coolant temperature's 144. That's showing about the same. Another thing I'll do on these is I will, international, and a lot of them you can turn the cruise on and hold the set button, and it'll let you bring the idle up. There we go. There we go. Starting to let me idle up now. Okay, that works. Now we'll go back to the front, the beginning. See, our actual pressure is still a little bit more most of the times than our desired, which is good. I get concerned when you see that the desired is higher than the actual. And we'll watch the IPR, injection pressure regulator control, and make sure it's not going to where it's totally closed, trying to keep up with it. Okay, we're up to about 100 and what? About 155 on temperature. 157. Alright, we'll let it warm up and come back. Alright, we're about 2,500 RPMs, and our ICP desired and actual are real close. IPR is only at 42%, and I'm probably half throttle or better. Brake pressure, I'm low on fluid. So what I want to verify is, you see how it's able to maintain high pressure oil right now at idle, but what happens is when you turn the key off, when it's warm, and then you go to restart it, watch the actual ICP, injection control pressure, and the desired. All right. Okay, so now we've got virtually a no start. So what I'm going to do is let this cool down. Where's our temperature at? Let's get back to our temperature. All right, temperature, we're basically 190 degrees. So we're going to let that cool down and then see if we have a difference on then after we let it cool down. So we'll bring it back then. Let's see, we're at 164 now, 166, somewhere around there. Let's go back to our pressures and our fuel system right here. So now it's not really dropped much. That's like 20 degrees from operating temperature. So, but we want to see if it cranks faster. Well, if it takes less time to build high pressure oil to fire. Yeah, you see how much quicker it fired off that time. So that leads me to believe that there's a leak somewhere. Whether it's oil, I don't think it's oil draining down in. I think it's oil getting past the O-rings, because we'll come back here when the temperature, I'm gonna let it sit for a while, and I'll show you the difference in the temperature. So we're at 163 right now. Well, coolant's 166. I'll bring it back here once we're down to around, I don't know, under 100, and let's see how fast it starts then. All right, so we are down to about 110 degrees on the coolant temp, about 109, 110 on the engine oil temp. So now what we want to see is if our pressures in our fuel system, if our injection control pressure and ICP desired, really what we're doing is testing the theory that at operating temperature, the engine oil is thinner, so it gets past O-rings and seal the leaks, and we're not getting all of our pressure that we'd like to have when you go to restart. It's enough to keep it running and running well, but when you try to restart it at lower RPMs and cranking, it won't, you're losing too much of it, and it's not able to build the pressure it needs to. So if the theory's correct, you know, we're 50 to 60 degrees cooler on the engine oil temperature, then what we should see is the desired pressure should be, I think, about 750, I believe, is what we want for it to fire. But we should see that injection control pressure come up faster, and that would kind of close in on the theory of having a high pressure oil leak somewhere. So here we go. Yeah, there you go. So, and the only thing different is the temperature of the engine oil. Yeah, so you can verify there, that's what we're talking about. So, since I started this video, I'm sorry, I'm going to turn that key off so you don't have to listen to that beeping. Since starting this repair, I have potentially sold the engine. So the potential buyer, I have spoke with him about the issues we're having. I verified and talked about, and he works on VT365s and 6 liters all the time. He's very familiar with them. So the things I was telling him, he was in agreement with what I thought was going on. So they're plenty okay with it, and they'll just pop the valve covers off once before they put the engine in, and they'll just reseal the oil rails and probably the injectors, and probably pull the high pressure oil pump off, and you know, check that screen and that kind of stuff. Pull the IPR out, look at that screen, make sure it's okay, and put it in his truck. But if that's the case, we'll be, like I said, we'll be yanking the motor out next. So that's it for this one. No sense in fixing it's got it's got one blown brake line. No sense in me fixing that now, because I'm going to be taking the motor and transmission out. They're not getting the transmission. I'm keeping that. So I'll have a Spicer transmission with the PTO. That'll be nice to have laying around. Probably got a 14-inch clutch. So we'll take that out. I'll keep it. And then I'll go ahead and pull the hood. The hood will be off. We pull the motor, and we'll take the cab off too, because I got some plans for the cab, as many of you know. But before I do that to the cab, I want to get the bottom side of it blasted, painted, because I want to build a truck out of this that's going to last for a long time. So I want to get the whole bottom side of the cab done so we don't have any troubles later. So, but anyways, that's it for now. Next thing you see it may be pulling the engine if they come through. If not, well, we'll probably be fixing a high pressure oil leak somewhere. So hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the next one.